welcome. Today we are looking at how we can begin to bounce back from pandemic-induced mental fatigue. By the end of this video, I very much hope that you will have a better understanding of why you may be feeling demotivated, lonely, trapped, disconnected, stressed, depressed, angry, lethargic, hopeless. The list is not exhaustive. Wherever you are is the right place for you. There is no judgment. Your body and mind have done a great job in extraordinary circumstances to protect you. Thus, the place you find yourself in today is exactly where you need it to be. If you feel you've gotten stuck in a particular way of thinking or doing, please don't worry. You've done the best you could with the knowledge, experience and awareness you have accumulated in this lifetime. We will examine how the fight, flight and freeze response has automatically been triggered by a perceived threat, namely the pandemic. This response is our body's automatic reaction to fear. The reactions are immediate, automatic and instinctive. This response has been inbuilt since we were cavemen and cavewomen 200,000 years ago, in fact, when we lived in a world of constant danger. Unfortunately, even after so many centuries, our brain behaves in the same way. We will examine the marvel of neuroscience, specifically neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to rewire itself. Finally, we will look at some small, simple steps which you can take to gently shift any unwanted feelings or thoughts to gradually develop a more positive outlook at a pace that's right for you. For many of us, the pandemic has triggered a tornado of emotions. We haven't been able to rely on our usual self-care practices to pull us through. This can make us feel overwhelmed and disoriented. The whole world has experienced collective trauma and grief. We might be grieving the loss of individuals who have passed away, grieving the loss of our old routines and comforting activities. We may be experiencing financial worry and turning to vices such as alcohol or drugs to cope better. The loss of identity over the past 14 months and the never-ending feeling that everything is changing conjures up many feelings of fear, uncertainty, a sense of despair and helplessness. So let's look at pandemic fatigue. The World Health Organization defines pandemic fatigue as a natural and expected reaction to sustained and unresolved adversity in people's lives. It expresses itself as demotivation to engage in protective behaviours and to seek out information, as well as in feelings of complacency, alienation and hopelessness. So let's take a look at how the pandemic is impacting our body and brain. Our stress response is designed for very temporary threats to our safety. If this response is kept up over time, we can become exhausted, develop burnout, or even get physically sick. Over time, our brains adapt to being under stress and we become even more stressed more often. COVID-19 is a good example of a threat to our safety that is not passing within that few second window our stress response is designed for. So looking at the fight response, we can expect feelings of irritability. We're more ready to engage in arguments with family members. We're hoarding items such as cleaning products or toilet paper. There's excessive competitiveness for items when shopping or criticising staff for limited items in stock. And we find ourselves imagining and planning for scenarios where the person might have to fight to survive. So looking at the flight response then, there may be a hiding out, a reluctance or refusal to engage in activities medical professionals have deemed safe for the general public, such as walks or grocery shopping. There's a reluctance or refusal to return to activities once restrictions have been lifted. And perhaps we could look at the passive communication styles or people pleasing in order to avoid conflict or confrontation. Finally, the freeze response. We can see numbing behaviours such as substance abuse, increased time spent on social media, excessive time spent watching TV. For example, when you're not enjoying the movie anymore or not paying attention to the plot line and are watching it just to fill time. And other behaviours such as gambling or disordered eating. So how can you recognise if the fight, flight, freeze response has gotten activated? These are some of the symptoms to look out for. Your heart starts to beat faster. Vision becomes narrow so that you become more alert. Sweaty hands. Your hearing becomes more sensitive. Muscles tense up. And you have the urge to run away or escape the situation. The limbic system, also called the mammalian brain, is responsible for the fight, flight, freeze response. Interestingly, this is unique to mammals. A majority of our emotional processing happens in this part of the brain. Here, survival is predicted on the avoidance of pain and repetition of pleasure. The amygdala and hypothalamus do not register time or apply logic. The amygdala is like a checkpoint at the airport. It scans for threat or danger. When the amygdala signals danger, it activates the thalamus. This is driven by the reptilian brain, and thus the flight, fight, freeze response is activated. Even after danger has passed, the thalamus remains on high alert, activating the same response if anything is reminiscent of danger. When the brain is overburdened, like with the pandemic, it works harder and sustains a heightened response over a longer period of time, which can manifest in the body as traumatic stress. The best way to handle this automatic response is to take a pause and start naming our emotions. In times of hardship, it can be extremely beneficial to put words to what we are feeling. For example, I am feeling sadness. Anger has shown up. Shame is popping up. Naming our emotions will aid in not getting swept away by the emotional storms. In order for us to stay afloat and hold ourselves steady, naming our emotions and recognizing that the fight-flight response is a natural response will give us much needed space to decide on what action to choose that will make our lives better. The great news is that therapeutic techniques such as cognitive behavioral therapy and emotional freedom technique have been specifically proven to rewire the brain and to stop pain. Similarly, dialectical behavior therapy, EMDR, and consistent use of positive affirmations can help you to regulate negative emotions and to rewire the brain to have a new experience in relation to the stress trigger. Our brains were once thought to be hardwired after early childhood, but the brain actually has a remarkable ability to change and heal itself. The process is known as neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways according to one's behaviours, thoughts and emotions. It might be helpful to limit pandemic-related news and media and invite more uplifting content into your conversations and attention. Some simple self-care techniques that you may want to embrace include setting boundaries about what you're willing to let into your emotional space. For example, not discussing the news after 7 o'clock, keeping in touch with people, looking after your body, eating healthily, drinking enough water, exercising, not smoking or drinking too much alcohol, spending time in nature, finding time to relax and do breathing exercises, and finally, helping other people can make you and them feel a lot better too. I really hope you've enjoyed today's informational video. Thank you for joining me.